She Is Serious, a podcast where we showcase female athletes and their impact beyond the game. Each week, we will be bringing on influential women in the world of sports and showing why they are so much more than athletes. My name is Taylor Hall. I'm a health and fitness influencer and collegiate athlete at Biola University. And this is my sis, my co-host, Ashley White. What's up, girl?
Hey, y'all. Hey, my name is Ashley White, a former student athlete manager for UNCW's women's basketball, a blogger, writer for Beautiful Ballers, and an advocate for women in sports. Thank you for tuning in weekly to She Is Serious podcast. And this is why female athletes are now to be taken seriously. Hey, sis.
Hey sis, welcome back to another episode of She Is Serious. We are super excited to welcome on our special guest today, Kyla. What's up, girl? How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. How are you guys doing?
Fabulous.
Glad to hear.
So good. So good. We're so excited to be here.
So, Miss Kyla, we gotta ask you. So, what is your sports story, and how did you get involved with volleyball?
How did I fall in love with volleyball? Well, actually, I played a lot of different sports before volleyball, and volleyball was really the only sport. Well, first of all, I don't really like physical touch too much, and I don't really like running. I don't like pretty much everything all the other sports had to offer, so volleyball was the perfect sport for me. Plus, the uniforms were super cute, so I was like, might as well stick to volleyball.
Yes, girl, gotta be cute.
Exactly. You know, middle school me was worried about what I could wear and spandex and stuff. So, yeah, that's how I got started. And I really started falling in love with volleyball. I took it serious in high school. And that's when I started getting training. And, you know, people were telling me you got a lot of potential. You know, you can get your whole school paid for if you take this serious. So, obviously, I started to take it serious. And yeah, from there I just fell in love with the game. I fell in love with, you know, volleyball has a lot of similarities to basketball, which is why I enjoy watching basketball. But, you know, just the playing it is like a little hard for me, you know. Kudos to you guys who played it, but it's a lot of work that goes into that. But volleyball is a lot of work too. It's just, you know, like a different level of it, you know. Instead of running, we jump a lot. But yeah, I just fell in love with it. I like taking my anger out on the ball and like not having to deal with the physicalness of other sports and not having to be outside. That's a big one. I'm not a big fan of the
Oh my God, I'm so glad I played an indoor sport too, because outside people are warriors for sure.
Yes, they are. They're God's strongest soldiers. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Yes,
Awesome.
girl. So you mentioned that you started in middle school, and that's kind of a little bit later. For basketball, I know people that started in middle school, a lot of girls have been playing since they were like 5, you know what I mean? So were you kind of a late bloomer in that aspect?
Oh yeah, for sure. When I started in middle school, well, I wouldn't say I actually started in high school. Middle school, I was just on the team because they're like, you're tall, we need you. Like, whatever, yeah, sure, I'll come. But then I like really started taking it seriously in high school. But when I was in high school, these girls have been playing since they were like 8, 9, you know. The club that I went to, they had teams that went as low as 6. Like, they were teaching toddlers how to play volleyball, and I was like, wow, like, I'm really late to this. But it's like, you know, I was really athletic, so I caught on pretty quickly, and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, it was a little intimidating at first to be around girls who had that love for the sport way longer than I even thought about the sport. But, you know, it came, so I'm glad. But I stuck with it.
So yeah, that's so awesome. So what did it take for you to reach that level of competition? Was it your hard work and dedication, or do you think your athleticism carried you throughout most of high school?
I think definitely a bit of both, because my athleticism got my foot in the door. You know, I started off, when I went to high school, I started off on the freshman team. And we were like one of the best freshman teams in the state. Like, we went all the way as far as you can go. And then from freshman, I went to varsity my sophomore year. So I made a pretty big jump. And it was mainly, you know, from working hard, my athleticism, like I said. And they put me in a new position as well. So it was a position that was easier to learn. Well, not easier to learn, but easier for me to learn. And less like, it was just easier for me to learn. So, yeah.
What position was it?
Well, I started off when I was on freshman, I was a outside hitter. And then when I went to varsity, they put me in the middle. And when I was in the middle, that's when I really started like being like getting looks. I went to T Street. They're like a really big club back then. I think they still are, but they're a pretty big club. And I played middle for them. I've always wanted to be outside right side because I knew logically like I was a little short to be a middle at a D1 school. But, you know, everyone saw how good of a middle I was, and they're like, we're not letting you leave that position. So, yeah. So
Tell them, girl.
For all of college, or not all of college, all of high school. And then college is when I started going to the Pens. I went to outside my freshman year and then switched over to right side.
So with college, can you explain like the competition that you like kind of endured, and also how did you get through the collegiate career of it, like the ins and outs of it?
Yeah, it was, I'm not gonna lie, college was rough for me because my best volleyball years were from in high school. And, you know, like I was on award, like top teams in the nation. The girls that I was playing with, they're going to the schools that are like going to the tournament every year, you know. And so for me, it was a little hard to kind of deal with not being at that same level as my older teammates were, or even the girls that I've beaten before, you know. When I went my freshman year, I was at Oregon State University, and Oregon State, they had a pretty big history of like girls transferring out because of the abusive program being ran. So that was a really rough year for me. It was more of like a mental battle than the physical battle because, well, first off, when I went to Oregon State, I found out that I had like the sickle cell trait. So that like already like kind of hindered me from a lot of stuff to do, like a lot of the stuff that we had to do. Because, you know, going from high school to college workouts is so different. Like I thought like I was getting my ass kicked in high school. No, like college is a different ballpark.
Oh my God.
It was crazy.
Completely.
Like, you know, they had girls throwing up. They had me seeing stars. I was like, what is this? So, yes, that was
Yes, I'm like, I thought I was going through it in high school. College is something different.
Different
for
ballpark.
Sure.
Not for everyone. I see that now. But yeah, so Oregon State was like a mental battle for me. It was mainly because I think just the environment the coaches built. Like, I know like I had a little bit of trouble with some of the girls, but it was because of how the coaches were. Like the girls were only the way they were because of the environment that the coaches built, and I can't really blame them for that. But it was in time. It was a little bump in the road, and then I transferred to University of Nevada, Reno, and it was a little better in that aspect. But it still had some aspects similar to Oregon State, like with the coaches. Like one of the coaches was like pretty abusive the first year. He started mellowing out, and then she just left like this past year. So hopefully they'll like be better from now on going forward.
Well, and you mentioned that even though you transferred schools, right, there was some things that were better at Reno, but at the same time, it's kind of sad that I know this happens in a lot of organizations. There's so much like mental abuse that goes on behind the scenes, and it seems like it's very, very common across the board with college athletics. Why do you think that is so common? Because it's something that we all experience, and I know I can relate to so many people like you, Kyla. When I talk to people who have played college sports, they have like the same experience, but why is it so common? And what do you think we can do to make more awareness and change that?
I think it's just so common because like as athletes, we're kind of like bred to be like the perfect, what's the word? Like, I wouldn't say like the perfect, like worker. Like, you know, we're bred to put the team over ourselves. We're supposed to endure all the shit that we take. Like, we're not supposed to, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they kind of take advantage of that because, you know, when we get hurt, what do? We don't want to tell our trainer. We want to keep playing. We don't want to be seen as weak. And, like, they take advantage of that. They use that against you. It's like, oh, if you're hurt, like, why are you taking time off? Like, you should still be doing something. And it's like, that kind of fucks with your mental a little bit because, sorry, I don't know if I can cuss. But
No,
that messes
absolutely.
with your
No, go
mental.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
That messes with your mental a little bit because you're like, oh, dang, like, I am really in pain. And you can see, like, I'm in pain, but it's like, if I take the time and actually take care of my body, it's seen as putting myself above the team. And it's the same thing with the mental aspect of it. Like, if I take time away from the craziness of it all, you're seen as selfish, and I think that's just like the mentality that goes into sports. Like, you're supposed to be this machine that just keeps going, doesn't stop for anything. And I think that's just something, like, even with this podcast, this is something that's bringing awareness to girls who have experienced the same thing, because it's very common in D1 athletics for a girl to have a bunch of mental health issues due to her sport, due to her, even like college students in general. So it's like college students were already struggling, and then put the sport on top of that, put the coaches on top of that, put the teammates on top of that. Like, it's just,
Right.
It all ends up piling up, and then that's when it just kind of blows up. Yeah.
I know I've seen a lot of from being a former student athlete manager for a mid-major. So, because I know University of Nevada, Reno would be considered mid-major in a way, I guess, compared to, like, say, Power 5 schools.
Yeah.
You see a lot of, like, expectations, like, if this program doesn't succeed in a specific certain way, they are threatened to be cut.
Yeah.
And the players are, they have to be at a specific standard of how great they have to be, or else they get threatened to be cut, or they're like, you might as well go transfer.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, it's a lot of mental health, issues that student athletes already have to deal with, like you said, Kyla, and Taylor, with being a student, being an athlete, workouts and study hall. So it's already kind of condensed, and it's like, you don't want that to be just more piled up. So,
And I think too, to add on top of that, Ash, our bodies are not meant to go through that much stress in our life, right? And so maybe we don't feel like we're stressed, or like our mental health is taking a toll, because a lot of people don't like to say, oh, my mental health is not good. Well, it's okay to use that term, that our mental health is not 100%. And I think that a lot of people don't want to say anything because they don't want to be seen as weak, or we've always been taught, like Kyla said, to just be like the tougher person and to just stick through it. But it's important that we do say, hey, our mental health is not all the way there. We're not supposed to go through 3 to 4 workouts every single day, plus school, plus get barely any sleep, not the correct nutrition. Our bodies are not meant to go through that stress, right? So we hold on to things in different ways, whether we get sick, we get injured, and it ends up piling up, and a lot of people crash down. And I think that we need to allow ourselves to feel those emotions. And I think that coaches need to be more accepting of these emotions that we feel, especially as college athletes when we are going through this much stress. We should be able to talk about it like it should be an okay thing. And I think it's hidden under the rug a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. It's also I feel like what you said about the coaches, it's the money thing too. These coaches are acting out of fear. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose funding. So it's like they kind of take it out on the athletes, because it's like, if we're not performing, if we're not doing what we need to do, they suffer in a sense. So it's like, it's it's so many things that go into it, and it's unfortunate. And hopefully, we're going to get past it and figure out a way to treat our athletes like people and not like these machines. So, yeah.
Right, because we are people first. We're not machines. Yeah. What if we were yelling at our coaches every single day, and just demeaning them, and they had to come to work just worried about their next move, because that's what we do as athletes, and that's a lot of stress physically and mentally and emotionally. So I don't think that a lot of time coaches understand that. So maybe we can, do something where it's like, hey, coaches, this is how we feel. Maybe you guys aren't trying to come at us this way, but this is how it is making us feel, and this is how it's affecting us. So there's different ways to coach different individuals, right? And each individual needs to be taken care of separately. So maybe someone responds to screaming and yelling better than someone who else just responds to maybe talking on the side. But it definitely needs to be addressed and needs to be changed, because not this many college athletes should have to go through this. It's something that we work our whole lives to do, and then it ends up being not the best time of our lives, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kyla, with the NIL officially started with this era, like a couple years ago, like, how has it made an impact on you during your collegiate career, especially like you being able to finally get paid for your name and image and likeness?
It's really nice. Like, I'm grateful for it, because, you know, before NIL hit, I wasn't like that popping on Instagram, but TikTok, you know, that was starting to get popular. I was getting popular on TikTok. I would have brands reach out to me, and I'm just like, I can't, because, you know, NIL. But so now that that's over, or now that we do have NIL, I feel like it's going to bring a lot of opportunities too, like to other athletes who are struggling, who are living off their stipend, and their family don't have anything. You know, they have another source of income, because it's like, you're already exploiting us, you know, for our bodies. We might as well, you know,
Right.
out of our own image. You know, I'm surprised it took so long for it to get pushed through, but I'm glad it finally did. And, you know, they're even letting the athletes in high school do it now, like, who are committed. So that's exciting. You know, you can go into college, you know, that you have a little bit of something to sit back on, and something to work towards, you know. So yeah, I love what NIL is doing, like, for athletes everywhere.
Absolutely.
I will say the NIL, like, a lot of people don't know this, but there was a former UCLA men's player that actually filed a lawsuit over the NCAA, because, you know, and this was back in the 90s, early 2000s, like early 2000 it was happening, or maybe late early 2010s. But he was the one, actually, a lot of people don't know this, but he was actually the one that filed a lawsuit because NCAA was making money off of players. And it's like, hold up.
Yeah.
You're making money off of my name, and you know players, you know, they're using, you know, if you played video games, you were seeing players being used, their image on video games is like, do I get a stipend?
Yeah.
Do I get a compensation? And that was a huge deal. So, like, the fact that a lot of people didn't know this, they're like, yo, like, and he was the one that brought I forgot his last name, but I know it's Ed something, but he played basketball back in UCLA days. But yeah, so it was a huge issue. So, like, you know, I think it's awesome that it's about time that student athletes finally getting paid and getting that compensation, because, you know, how many times that, you know, y'all's names probably been used in advertisements or on websites that y'all probably didn't know about, but they're using y'all's face and stuff. So,
and on top of that too, we don't have enough time, right, Kyla, to like go out and get a job. So
Exactly.
if we're getting exploited and using all these platforms to be put on a pedestal, then we might as well make some money off of it, because, you know, we're in the gym for, I don't know, at least 5 hours per day.
Yeah, like at least
At
like
least.
a third of our day.
Right. And then the other stuff is like film and weights, which also has to do with our sport. And then we have, you know, homework, and then we have school. So it's like, it's literally a full-time job. So no, we don't have time to go get a job. So yes, please let us make money off of our name, image, and likeness.
Our own
please.
name, our own image. Like,
Right.
It's not even yours, it's mine. But that's the thing. Like, you know, I feel like this is a start to what you guys were saying earlier, like taking athletes more seriously, taking their mental health more seriously, because it's like, okay, now you're starting to see us as our own people. You know, we can make money off ourselves. Now, hopefully, you can see us as actual people with actual feelings and actual reaction and emotions. So it's a good start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your journey to the Deaflympics,
Because that's crazy.
Yeah, it was fun. It's actually kind of funny because I remember they reached out to me in high school when I was 17, and this was like in 2017. Yeah, they were going to Turkey, but I didn't know that was like a real thing. Like I mean, I looked it up and I was like, I don't know. It just seemed like spam because deaf people, they talk a little bit different than hearing people, and when they it's just like different grammar. So I was like, oh, this looks like spam. Like I don't think I'll deal. I don't think I'm gonna deal with it. But then they reached out to me again, and I looked more into it, and I actually found a girl who was on the team, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm actually gonna do it this time. I'm gonna see what's up. And so yeah, they reached out to me, and we went to the Final Four for volleyball. So we went to go see Wisconsin, and I think it was Nebraska play, and we practiced. We had like a little camp for the team, and it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. Then we went to Deaflympics in May, and we didn't do as well as I hoped, but it really opened my eyes to like how big it was. Like there's like our stadiums were full. Like people were asking for autographs. They didn't even know our names, but they were like, you can sign that. Like like kind of yeah. So it was really cute. It was a really good experience. And there's like different sign languages for different countries, and there's this one universal sign language that everyone uses when we're in the same space. And that was really cool to experience. And it also opened my eyes. Like, I really want to bring more awareness to it because, when we played Turkey and I think it was Italy, they have funding, like, backing them. So for us, we had to pay our own way there. So we had to pay for our flight, we had to pay for our hotel, pay for all of that. But,
wow.
They'll help us with sponsorship. They'll help us try to find, like, people to pay. Like, we have GoFundMes and stuff. But these other countries, like, they have their government backing them. Like, they come home with a medal. They're coming home like $30,000 richer. Like, it was a big deal to them. So I want to make that more of a big deal here in America. And even with, have you seen Justina Miles, the sign language interpreter for Rihanna?
Yes.
Yeah. She was as a Deaflympic too. She
so dope.
Team. And I'm glad, she's getting her traction too, because she's going to bring more awareness to when we go to the Deaflympics again in 2025. So we're doing World Championships in 2024 and then Deaflympics in 2025. But yeah, I just want to bring more awareness before that comes, so none of us have to pay for it. We could just have our sponsors help us we can just worry about training. We don't really train together unless it's like we're there already. So we didn't. All the other teams, they have been training for months. Like they were working with each other for months. We just kind of all went out there and then we practiced for the few days, and then we were like, all right, let's play. So I do want it to be more structured and actually have feel like an Olympic, because it felt like an Olympics, but there's still so much potential. And it's seeing the other countries, I'm like, okay, well, I see it can be done. People enjoy the sport, and it's not like we're scrubs. The games, they hit hard, they block hard. It's really fun to watch. So
right.
And another thing was it wasn't televised, or it was televised, but it wasn't very organized. All my friends, all my family was having a really hard time to watch it, and that kind of made me disappointed. But that's another thing to work towards. I want to get streaming for it. I want to get sponsorship for it. I want it to be. I want to leave the team. Before I leave the team, I want the team to be an actual Olympic team. So it was a really good experience. Outside of that, though, we played Turkey, we played Italy, we played Ukraine, we played Japan. Oh my gosh, when we played Japan, it felt like we were playing a video game. They're just I don't know how to explain it, because they're just all over the place, and they hit so hard, and they're all so small, but they jump so high.
Oh my gosh,
it was cool. It was just cool to see how big it was in these other countries. I didn't know there's so many deaf people who are this passionate about sports, and it inspired me to bring awareness to these people who don't really have a voice. Because I have a lot of followers, I have a platform to give to other people. So yeah, it was a fun experience. It was nice. And yeah.
I had to make sure to do this because when you were about to explain, I was like, when she asked about it, I was like, yes, like applauding because I love your story about the Deaflympics just because, it's amazing. And, I ain't never heard of it until we one time gone on live one time. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
But, so do you plan on hopefully like continuing to be in the Deaflympics?
I do. I want to play as long as my body will let me. I want to like eventually transfer over to beach too, because that's a little bit easier on your body. We don't have a beach team yet, so that's something else I want to like kind of introduce. But we just got a men's volleyball team, and we've always had a women. And our tryouts are in July, so that's exciting to see like the new faces, because I'm sure like we've gotten a lot of traction with Justina going viral and her ASL interpretation going viral. And it's like it's such a diverse community there. Like not everyone knows ASL, not everyone is fully deaf. Like deafness comes at a spectrum. Like me, like I am at like a 55 decibel loss, and that's like where you need to be to qualify for the Deaflympics, 55 or lower. So I was like right there. And, there are a couple girls on the team who are 55 or lower, so they're more like in the hearing world. And then there are a couple people who are like 80, 90, who are almost completely deaf, and they're in the deaf world. So they sign, they use nonverbal communication as their form. And it's just nice. It was like a melting pot. Like we all came together, we all had to work together. And then it's like playing around deaf people is so much different than hearing, obviously, it's so much different than hearing people because, when you're on the court, you could just be like, hey, like, you run this play. But, when you're on the court with deaf people, you got to, like, stomp. You got to wave your hands. You got to, like, get their attention another way. And it was actually fun.
Oh, my God, that's so
fun.
crazy.
Yeah, it was cool. But, yeah.
So how did growing up being deaf, how did that impact your career?
It didn't really impact it that much because I read lips. So, I mean, it impacted it, but it wasn't like as severe as it would sound because, I grew up reading lips and, I grew up taking speech classes. So that's how I can talk, normally, I guess. And that's how I can navigate the hearing world so well. But, I've always had to wear hearing aids since about third grade. I got them in third grade, and I haven't been wearing them recently only because, like, I don't know. I don't really like wearing them, not because of the way they look, but it's like I like kind of forcing myself to, like, sign and, like, be more a part of the deaf community. Because a lot of the girls on the team, like, they have hearing aids, they have cochlear implants, they choose not to wear them because it's like, you don't need to. You're like, you don't need hearing as a form of communication. And, but growing up, it was hard because I didn't realize how much, like, it affected me until, like, I would get around other people who are hearing, so people think I'm ignoring them when it's like, I just didn't hear what they said. Or if I ask them to repeat themselves and they kind of get an attitude or they get annoyed, so I have to, like, navigate that. And it was just like, it did affect my relationships in ways that I'm just now realizing, like, wow, like that probably happened the way it did because I couldn't really hear them. They didn't really know, or they forgot maybe that I couldn't hear them, So it's like a lot of things that go into it, but I wouldn't say I wish I wasn't deaf, like I appreciate everything that it's done for me. And I do love, like, how it kind of, I wouldn't say it forced me, but it's like it influenced me to learn ASL. And now, like, that's not just the language for deaf people. That's the language, people with autism, people who are nonverbal, people who, like, just don't want to, people who just don't want to speak. Like, it's for everybody. So, yeah, so I'm glad to, like, be able to have that platform, have that, like, look, to promote it and bring traction to it. So, yeah.
I think
very cool.
I think there's, a lot of people would assume if, say, somebody is like that's on, say, like that's either deaf or on the spectrum, they always assume there's a specific look, but it's no specific look. And that's kind of like, I feel like we definitely need to, just dissect that stigma because it's just, there's no specific look to anything. So, and I feel like Kyla, your story has definitely inspired me, especially after writing it, and you are truly an inspiration. And, and I believe you are the epitome of what it is to like be, to use what you have, use your platform. And I think like you're going to represent wherever you go. I think you are going to start, just make huge things more than just being, being an athlete who's deaf, but you are the epitome of, using that platform and taking it farther. And I believe you are going to lead the way, girl. You are going to lead the way. You are representing as it is.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, because I do want to give I feel like when people think of ASL, they just think of like old people teaching ASL. It's like, no, I want to give it a new look. It could be young, it could be hip, it could be cool, like Justina, like she made it look cool as hell when she was doing it for Rihanna, and that gave ASL a new look. I want to give ASL another new look, like maybe like a little bit different than her. She's in her own lane. Like I have my own lane, which is like I love that. We all need our own lanes and to promote all the spectrum of deafness and ASL, and there's just so much that goes into it, and I'm just excited that people like listen to me. They're excited about it. They're interested in it. So I'm glad I can make people interested in it. Yeah.
It's so cool, especially like so many women like leading the way, like yourself. And it's women that are doing it. I don't see very many males out there like making ASL, bringing that to the surface. I feel like it's a lot of women, which is really, really cool to see, and just making a change. And it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad to be a part of the change. So.
Girl, yes, you better. Girl, yes. Let them know what it is. And speaking of which, Miss Kyla, what makes you more than an athlete? If someone were to ask you, Kyla, what makes you more than an athlete? How would you describe yourself?
What makes me more than an athlete? I think just all my interests and talents. Like before I was an athlete, I was very into music, and I know like being deaf is like music, but no, like I just love music. I love playing it. I love listening to it. I love hearing all like pretty much everything art, like drawing, painting, choir. I love everything like has to do with art. I really just got into sports because they said that I should, and I was like, I ended up loving it. I end up pretty much doing everything I do. I end up loving. So it's just like I don't know. I feel like my passion just about everything that I do. That's what makes me more than an athlete.
No, I can tell you're very passionate, and when you talk about your dreams and your goals, like it's your passion just really shines through it. So I think anything that you do, or I know anything that you do, you're going to be very successful at.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
It's a creative, girl. You're creative.
Yeah. And we see that through your platform. We'll make sure to drop your for TikTok and Insta in the comments. So everyone make sure you go follow Kyla and keep up with her and her impact in the world, because she's doing huge things, not only for female athletes, but for the Deaflympics and the deaf community, and just for women in general, because you are really, truly the epitome of just a strong woman who's gone through a lot and who's just really making a change.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Kyla, if like your supporters want to learn more on ASL, where can they get some lessons or find, where they can, learn from you?
You can learn on YouTube. I know like people say like YouTube isn't that easy to learn from because it's not like immersive, but I do have a Patreon where I teach ASL. I teach ASL on Patreon, and I teach it on OnlyFans. I know that's a little controversial, but it's nothing. It's like nothing like.
But hey,
it's just ASL. A couple of sexy pictures, keep y'all motivated. But Patreon is really family friendly, and then my OnlyFans is for like the guys who want to learn ASL, and so. yeah, you can learn from me, or, there's a bunch of resources, if you go on Reddit and you look up, like, you join the ASL communities, like, they'll tell you some resources as well. It's really, the internet is such a vast place. You just gotta, like, kind of deep dive and figure out what works best for you. And, like, for me, personally, I do pretty hands-on. So it's like I give my students quizzes, like, I do, they ask me questions, I answer them, I go live with them. So I'm thinking about doing an Instagram subscription as well, because my Patreon people aren't that interested in. So I'm just like, I might as well just do one on Instagram too. But yeah.
And you get paid for them subscriptions, girl. You get paid with them. Okay, get your coin.
Get that money, honey.
Yep. It takes a lot to sit down and film all that content for.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
I'm already knowing. People don't understand, but it's a lot. It is a lot.
But we love that you came on the show. We love it here. We love that you came on the show because
I'm so glad you guys invited me. I love what you guys are doing. You're talking about my women empowerment, y'all's women empowerment, giving voices to all these women who, like, I mean, I'm sure, like, some of them already do, but it's like, you're giving them another platform to have a voice on. So kudos to you guys.
Oh, thanks, girl. Well, we love you, and we love all of the women who are, coming to this She Is Serious podcast and spreading their truth and their light, because we need more of this, and just creating a sisterhood is super fun and making connections with you all. So we love this, and we're going to continue to grow with you. And next year we're going to have to check back in and see, like, where you are in a year. Of course, like, in 2025, don't forget the Deaflympics, everybody. Tune in, baby. Tune in. It's coming up soon.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting to see everyone's growth and journey.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm excited to circle back with you guys, see, how much you guys are growing, and then, tell y'all about my new projects and whatnot.
Yes. We need to keep up for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining in to another episode of She Is Serious. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday. You know what it is. And this is why we are serious. We'll see you next time. Peace.